Hey everybody, it's that Sunday School Girl of thatsundayschoolgirl.com. Welcome to the lesson for this Sunday, June 4th. It is Saturday, like mid-afternoon, so yes, I'm a little tardy again with the video, but you know what? These days, I promise you, things are happening so quickly, I am just trying to keep up. I've had a fantastic week in Orlando, Florida with the International Department of Women of the Church of God in Christ. Congratulations to Mother Barbara McCoo-Lewis on your inaugural convention. It was anointed, it was energetic, it was an amazing convention, and I am so honored to have participated in the leadership conference on Tuesday as one of the speakers. So it was a busy week for me, and I flew back on Thursday morning on like the 6 a.m. flight and went straight back to my internship. So I got a couple of days in there, and let me just be honest with you about today. I am tired. I slept. Now, don't laugh at me and don't judge me. Like, sleeping with no alarm clock means like about 8:25 for me, and I did that. And at 8:25, I was not ready to move. I just laid there. I needed to rest. So I'm a little late with the video, and as soon as I get this done, I'm going to go out and find something to eat. And I'm probably going to go back and lay down again just so I can try to recover. But I hope that you have far more exciting plans than I do this weekend. And here's that shameless plug where I'm going to ask you, because believe you me, if anybody would value an extra 90 minutes of sleep tomorrow, it would be me. But we're not going to do that. No, 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 no. We're going to be up and we're going to be in Sunday school. So I'm glad that you're here so that we can review this lesson so that we are able to be a part of our classes in a meaningful way. If you're new around here, welcome. You have just joined the largest cyber community of Sunday school students on the World Wide Web. This is an amazing community. I love the love and I love the learning that's taking place here. So I'm glad that you're here. Make sure that everyone, all of you, new, not new, I don't care. Just look right now. Look for the little button that says subscribe. I need you to hit it. There's also a button that allows you to set your notifications so that as soon as these videos are uploaded, you'll get an email notification and you don't miss anything. You know that it's out here. I had some folks this week stop me and say, do you still do your videos? Yes. But if you're asking me if I still do videos, you don't have your notifications set. So set your notifications so that you don't miss anything that comes out on this channel. You know, we do these videos each week for 3 reasons. Number 1, to encourage you to make Sunday school part of your regular weekend routine. Secondly, when you get there, I want you to be able to participate. Don't settle for what does verse number 3 mean to you. No, we've all studied. We're going to be in there. We're going to have great dialogue so that when we leave our classes, we understand how to activate God's word in our everyday lives. Listen, before I get into the lesson, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to show you some things. If you have not subscribed for the TSSG quarterly box, you are missing the good stuff. If you're not familiar with the subscription box, it's basically, I promise there's hundreds of them out there, thousands even. Whatever your thing is, your joy, your love, I don't care if it's Sunday school, if it's fishing, if it's cooking, if it's makeup, there is some subscription box service out there for you. And this one is specifically for Sunday school teachers. It comes out once a quarter. As we're going into our new quarter, if you're signed up, you receive a great box full of goodies and just fun stuff. And this month's quarter was themed Super Sunday School. Now, I have to tell you the bad news. The bad news is really the good news for me, and that's that the box is sold out. It's sold out completely. I couldn't even post it because of the number of subscriptions that are already in line for the box. So I'm sorry that you missed the box in its fullness, but I can show you a couple of things that were in it because it was themed Super Sunday School. One item was the Teaching Sunday is my superpower, or yeah, I'm a Sunday school teacher. What's your superpower? So that's the super t-shirt. And then this was like my absolute favorite item. This, you know, if you're coffee drinkers, you like to keep your beverage warm. And it had the super logo on it, Superman logo, rather. And that was a tongue twister. Anyway, it says, Sunday school makes Sunday morning super. And this is a fantastic item. Now, let me just be honest with you. I don't have the boxes. I can't send anyone a full box, but I literally have, I think well, no, you can't have this one. This one is mine, but I'm looking, I think I technically have 3 more of these, and I'm going to post the t-shirt on the site. So if you're interested in the t-shirt or being one of the 3 people who might still be able to get one of these, look for it later this week. I'm going to try to get those posted on the store on the TSSG site. So that means that you should have me bookmarked to your favorites. That's sundayschoolgirl.com. There's good stuff out there, and there are going to be new items that are coming to the store in the month of June. That's it for now. Let's get into the lesson for this week. Our lesson title this week is Deborah and Barak. Our Bible basis is Judges chapter 4, verses 1 through 10. The Bible truth. God's plan was fulfilled through Deborah's leadership and support. Our memory verse is from Judges 4, verse 9. And the lesson aim is that we will agree that there were challenging leadership dynamics during the time of Deborah, contrast Barak's sense of inadequacy and Deborah's sense of confidence, and assess godly counsel and be willing to share such wisdom with others. I just mentioned that we are moving into a new quarter of study. Welcome to summer and Sunday school, where our theme is God's urgent call. Now, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be in the study of the book of Judges, and I may try to do a separate video that walks us through some additional elements of the background of Judges. But for now, know that we're following the book of Joshua, so we're seeing all of the excitement and the conquest that happened after the children of Israel entered the promised land. But they have not entered into a time of chilling or rest. This is an active book full of violence and war because there really still are a lot of enemies around them. You know, all the sites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Amalekites, they're all around them. And we continue to see this cycle of the children of Israel. Now, we talk about them very often in Sunday school. We'll have quarters where we're just focused in the Old Testament, and we see this cycle of disobedience, discipline, desperation, and deliverance of the children of Israel. We see them turn their backs on God, think they can do things on their own, realize that it's hard out there, and they end up being delivered into the hands of their enemies, which is really their time of discipline. In those times, that's when they get desperate and they see their need for God, and then God sends a deliverer. And so that's what we're seeing in the book of Judges. Now, this week, I told you I just returned from the Women's International Convention, and one of the things that struck me the most and always strikes me when I'm in that type of setting is the legacy of faith that I understand that I'm a part of, and how awesome it is to be among women of varying ages, and especially to take advantage of the wisdom of the mothers and to hear stories of faith and to know what God can do. And that's important because we hand down those legacies of faith to our own children, and it's what we hold on to, because figuring life out on your own really is not easy. And that's exactly what's going on with the children of Israel, that figuring life out on their own in the promised land has not been easy. And what they're missing is what I just described. A legacy of godly leadership. They're missing that opportunity where something is handed down to them generation to generation. We know that from Joshua 2 and 10, where it tells us that there arose a generation after them which knew not the Lord nor the works that he had done for Israel. So a very challenging time. And here we are in chapter 4. Now we're going to be talking about, you'll see these judges, these deliverers, and in this time, these deliverers were judges who God would bring about to say what God said, but they would also be the vehicle through which God would actually bring deliverance. And so when that particular judge would die, the children of Israel would fall back into their cycle that we just talked about, and God would allow another to be raised. So that's what we're seeing. When we start here in verse 1, it starts with "and," which means we're continuing the story. The children of Israel did evil, and they did evil after Ehud. Now, Ehud, go back and do your research, was a previous judge, and God had used him to deliver the children of Israel from the king of Moab. Now, my left-handed friends, my nieces, Anaya, Alyssa, and my nephew, Christopher, 3 of my brother's 4 children are left-handed. So my left-handed friends love the story where Ehud was a lefty, and because he was a left-handed warrior, he was able to win his battle by sneak attack. He attached his weapon to the right thigh, and that wasn't typically where they looked for a weapon, and so he was able to kill the king of Moab by driving a dagger into him using his left hand. And the king of Moab was described in Judges 3:17 as a very fat man, and so he kills the very fat man, the king of Moab, with a dagger. So this is after the time of Ehud. And so some translations say that again, the children of Israel did evil. So again, we see this cycle. We've talked about that. This cycle of discipline, desperation, deliverance. We see it over again. This language is even very similar. Go take a peek at Judges chapter 3, verse 12. This is after Ehud, but this is the same language that's used when even he comes on the scene. Then we're introduced to who God is going to use to discipline the children of Israel. And we find out that he delivers them into the hands of Jabin, the king of Canaan, and Sisera, who is the general of the army. Now, if you go back and look at the history, why are these people important? We know from Joshua chapter 1 that Joshua fought Jabin before, that area before. He fought and he won very big in that area. Joshua 11:18 says that he fought until there was nothing left of them. But clearly they have had time to rebuild. And as I told you before, they're dwelling among enemies, and these enemies have grudges and they are seeking payback. And so these people are back and better than ever before. Joshua chapter 11 says that when Joshua destroyed that area before, he destroyed them to the point that he had gotten rid of everything. There was no king, there were no chariots, there was nothing left, and then there was fire to burn it. But here we see in Judges chapter 4 that they are back, they are better than ever, and now they have chariots again, and they don't have just a few. They are a huge army. In the printed, I think in totality, those 900 chariots are mentioned 3 times in Joshua chapter 4, just to convey the power that is about to come down on the children of Israel. And these two armies are not equal in size. We're talking massive chariots, and so there is no stopping them, and God delivers them into Jabin's hands for 20 years. And the lesson tells us that the pagan king was very cruel to them, that he oppressed them cruelly. Then we meet a wonderful woman, a judge. Her name was Deborah. Now, Deborah is, again, a judge at the time. Her name means bee. She's the queen bee. But she is a woman in leadership, and that's very unusual at this time. Now, we know very little about Deborah or her background, but what we do know is that she's a wife, she's a judge, she's a leader, she cares for people, and that she's named as a prophet. And we know that female prophets are not common. And what we mean is that she hears the voice of God, and she acts when she hears his voice. Now, again, female prophets are not common, so I guess my trivia question for the week, and I'll look for it in the comments, can you name other female prophetesses listed in the Bible? List for me other female prophetesses in the Bible. Now, in my role as an intern, I sit and I watch several times a week judges who sit on their benches and they review cases that are brought before them to be decided. And although a lot of other people may weigh in and bring authority, the final pronouncement is given by the judge. And so the role of the judge, the main role of a judge, is to make things right. And that was Deborah's role. Her role was to make things right and to bring the people back to God. That's how things were made right, to reconcile them back to God. These judges were given leadership roles to get the people to do what was right. And up to this point, again, we have only seen male judges. So here is Deborah. And she's really accustomed to people coming to her. She sits in a particular place and matters are brought to her. But here we see something different happens. She sends for Barak. Now, Barak is a leader, and we know this because he can rally large numbers of people to action. But Deborah and Barak are actually nowhere near each other. She's in the south and he's in the north. But when she sends for him, she asks a question. Didn't the Lord command you? And it's important for us to know what God says on a matter during difficult times. There are a lot of voices that we hear, lots of advice that we receive, but we should always listen for God. And Deborah knew that if God told him something, that God would perform what he said. Even though Barak was hesitant, he was reluctant, she reminded him, didn't God tell you to go? And then she specifically outlines the battle plan that God had given him and then reminded him of the promise that God was going to give him the victory. Verse 8 is when Barak responds, and he gets a lot of flack for this. He says, basically, if you'll go, then I will go. One note for us, if God has promised you something, it has nothing to do with whether anyone else goes with you or not. And here we see Barak with this contingency. I'll go, but I'm only going to go if you go. And again, we're hard on him when we read this story, but the truth is, there are times that we have things to do or places to go, and the first thing we want to know is, well, who's going to be there? Well, who's going to help me out? And there are times that we want to depend on people that we know will help us see things through, and then there are times that we just have to go, and we have to trust what God has said. But Deborah agrees to go with him, and she lets him know that this is not for free, that when she goes with him, he is not going to get the glory for winning the battle. He would not get the recognition as being the one who accomplished the win that God sent him to win. And why does Deborah mention the glory? You know, we don't do things for glory, yet when we do things for God, he gets the glory. And so there is a glory in being used by God. That said, interestingly enough, Barak does make the Hebrews 11 Hall of Fame, and he is remembered as one of the men who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, and obtained promises, and stopped the mouths of lions. Now, God would deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. Again, Sisera, that commanding general with the army of 900 chariots, would be taken down by a girl. Now, why was this a problem? Because you would never expect an army of that magnitude to be taken down by a woman. Perhaps that's where we get the hashtag fight like a girl. So this woman will read, if you read on to the end of chapter 4, read into chapter 5, you'll find out that that woman's name, this is not in our printed text, but that woman was Jael. And you'll find that when Sisera fled after the Israelites got the victory in the battle, that he went to the tent of the wife of a trusted person, someone that he thought was an ally, and asked her for drink, and she gave him milk and cookies instead. Now, perhaps the cookies is an embellishment, but she gave him warm milk instead, and that put him into a deep sleep. And while he was asleep, she drove a nail into his temples, and he died there. Back to our printed text, verse 9, Deborah does get up. She rises and she goes with Barak. She does not hesitate, but in strength and courage, very intentionally, but most of all in confidence, she goes, and we know that she gets the victory. They get the victory. Chapter 5 is the victory song of that battle that is won. And that really is the crux of our lesson. These are my key learnings for the week. First of all, ladies, especially the ladies, we are not restricted in what we can do for God by our gender. If God has gifted you, and this is not gender specific, but whoever you are, whatever God has gifted and anointed you to do, walk in it. God is so out of the box. We don't know how he's going to bring what he's going to do. He uses us regardless of our gender. He uses us regardless of our age. He uses us regardless of marital status. And let me just be transparent. I shared this in a message a couple of months ago. There were certain things that I knew that God had called me to do, but I would say, well, you know, at some point I was too young. And then there are things that I'm called to do and say, and I'll say, you know, well, I'm not married. So they'll say that I don't have a right to have an opinion. And sometimes I kind of get flack because I don't have children. And so people think that you don't have a thought or an opinion on children. But whatever God has given you to do, that gift that he's given you, he does not place restrictions on us as man does. Whatever he's given you to do, follow him with all of your heart and don't allow the limitations of other people to be placed on you. You go in confidence knowing that if God has given you the strategy, we have to listen and hear his voice. But when he has specifically given us how to do, the confidence that we have is that he's promised us the victory and that he's gone before us. We know that God does things and he provides in his own way and in his own timing. And that's what he did for the children of Israel, that in his timing, he provides the deliverer. Next, we should not create contingencies that keep us from obeying God. There is no if. When God has given us what to do, we simply should be like Deborah and arise and go. We don't have the contingencies. If you tell me how it's going to be done, if you show me where the money is, if I know the people are going to be happy when I do it. If God has given you to do, our response and our responsibility is simply to obey. And when we do that, the biggest reward is knowing that our faith always triumphs our faults. And so God has given us the victory. He is going to use us to do great things. We're going to continue to study this book of Judges together. I can't wait to hear what you thought about the lesson. This is all I have for you this week. I want you to go out and continue to make the rest of the weekend fantastic. Of course, I look forward to your comments. Please help me share this video so that others are prepared for Sunday school. I think that's it, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you in Sunday school. Bye-bye.